man. You're a family man, but you're also like one of the busiest people I know, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say this real quick too, man. People will always ask, how was it to meet and work with Nick Cannon? And from the jump, I was like, look, when you meet Nick, you will never think that he is as rich as he is because you're so down to earth. You feel me?
Yeah.
So how do you balance, bro? Like all your jobs and also all the babies? Because I got two and I'm
Yeah.
exhausted.
Nah, I mean that's the number one job, honestly. Like it's definitely I got a cold schedule, like from how I got to make sure I see my kids every day, and it just it's where I wake up, how I move. I mean, you didn't go upstairs, but there's a nursery upstairs in the office.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So there's always kids at the office and like.
Damn, I feel like that's just a wilding out joke, but it's a reality.
Yeah, so, for sure. Like yesterday, it was crazy. It was like 5 of my kids was at the office.
Word?
Yeah. So
Damn.
at
Hello,
different.
everybody, and thank you for joining us. How do you go on TV when your heart is broken? A gut-wrenching announcement today from entertainer Nick Cannon, who shared with his talk show audience that his 7th and youngest child died over the weekend. He was just 5.5 months old.
Holding my son for the last time.
TV personality Nick Cannon as you've never seen him before. He's in tears sharing the heartbreaking news that his 5-month-old son died of brain cancer. Cannon is overwhelmed. At moments, he couldn't even speak. The end for little Zen came the Sunday after Thanksgiving.
And we woke up on Sunday and I was like, I just feel like I want to go to the water. We're in close to the ocean, and we kind of got a chance to go to the ocean. It was a beautiful setting.
Cannon has 7 children, 2 with ex-wife singer Mariah Carey. Zen is his youngest. His mother is Alyssa Scott. On his new talk show today, Cannon shared photos of the 3 of them on that heartbreaking last day.
Not only did we get to see the sunrise, but we got to see the sunset too.
Cannon, who also hosts the hit show The Masked Singer, admitted that he was anxious about returning to the show after such a tragedy.
I didn't know how I was going to handle today. I didn't know how, but I just really wanted, I wanted to grieve with my family. You know what I mean? There's no...
He assured the audience that he was right where he belonged.
I'm going to make it through, and this is a special show dedicated to my beautiful son, Z.
Our hearts go out to him. Cannon was scheduled to do his show live on Monday, but they aired a rerun instead so he could have some time to grieve.
Yeah. And then they found out the reason why is that my immune system was attacking my kidneys. Therefore, my autoimmune condition, lupus and lupus nephritis, to where your immune system can get out of whack based off of whether it's levels of stress, things that you're putting into your body. A lot of times it's not hereditary. They don't really know what the cause of it is. It's definitely related to stress, which I didn't think I was stressed out, but it's like, obviously there's various types of stress, or physical stress, emotional stress, but can send your immune system out of whack, and therefore your immune system then starts to, self-destroy. It starts to attack the whatever organs. Different people's lupus attack different things. Mine specifically were my kidneys, which then created a bunch of other stuff like pulmonary embolisms. And so like the lupus I started having these flare-ups, and it was doing a bunch of stuff to my body. And that, if you don't catch it, and control it, you could lose your life pretty quickly. So it was a scary time. I didn't understand it, but we got it in order, and even I feel like I got a good hold on it now, but every once in a while, it's a great reminder that health is wealth. Health is currency. Health is the most important thing next to time that we possess. And we can't control the time. We can control our health. You can control what you put in your body. You can control how well you take care of yourself. So my lupus is my alarm clock every morning, letting me know, you better do the right things. You better drink your gallon of water. You better take your supplements. You better, not eat too much sodium or processed. They're like just a constant measuring stick to keep me alive.
How did that diagnosis change your life? So if I was in your life at that moment,
Yeah.
before that moment, and then during that moment, you're married, you're still contending with work, and
It changed it so much. I became a different person.
for better or for worse.
Both. You know, certain things didn't matter anymore. Other things mattered too much. You know, I started to overly value relationships and time, but then that made me get rid of relationships that were taking up time and wasting my time. But it all became, I always felt like I had a ticking clock, but the ticking clock became more apparent in 2012, that I gotta make the most out of today because tomorrow isn't promised. My relationship with my children, all of my children, you know what I mean? Like a lot of that all comes into play to where like, what are you gonna do with the time that you have on this planet? What impact are you gonna make? So that's kind of, that's where, in a nutshell, what it did.
Emotionally, if I'm Mariah at that time and I'm dealing with a Nick that's contending with this new diagnosis and an uncertain future.
Yeah. She was my rock, man. She was, she went hard, you know, probably wouldn't even, I'll be honest, probably wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for how hard she went, you know, with the doctors, with me, my stubbornness, you know. She was the perfect helpmate, the perfect matriarch, the perfect mom, the perfect wife in those scenarios. Because granted, she's who she is and dealing with all the pressures of being Mariah Carey, but then being loving enough to take on all of my stuff. And, you know, it probably took a toll on us just because of the person I was in my head and the struggles that I was dealing with. So it probably took a toll on our relationship, but it definitely brought us closer together.
The struggles you were dealing with?
Man, just like, was I gonna live? What was life all about? Had I wasted my time up until this point? And if I get another shot, what am I gonna do? What type of, am I gonna be able to be here for my children? Am I not gonna be able to be here for my children? So therefore, what am I leaving them? What am I leaving the world when I exit? You know, staring up at that hospital bed, or from the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling all alone when everybody else is kicked out, and you gotta just, you know, be face to face with your higher power, asking all those tough questions. Am I done? You know, a lot of people, we don't do that because we get caught up in the constant rat race of just living day to day. But it slowed down for me on many occasions of like, it's a wrap. He's almost out of here. And I wasn't scared. That's the crazy thing when you get to that point where you're like, oh, okay, I had a good run.
Were you happy?
I was.
In that moment, when you're looking up at the ceiling?
I want to say I was content. I wasn't scared. And it happened, you know, more than once. And even, you know, it continues to. Like, I'm probably reminded of my physical mortality all the time. And when you're not afraid of dying, you focus on living. You know, it's anyone who's ever had a near-death experience, or anyone who's been in those quiet places of dealing with thoughts of afterlife and what this current life was for you, you live the rest of your days differently. And at least for, you know, a certain amount of time until you're reminded again. But yeah, man, I always say I won at life. I've lived several lives and I won them all. You know, so it's like I'm not afraid to go. Like, and even all of the things that I study and have prepared myself for. It's, you know, one thing, it's inevitable. It's gonna happen to all of us at some point. And I think others just deal with it better, and it makes you appreciate this life. Like, when it's all said and done, I guarantee you they're gonna be like, yo, he rode that motherfucker till the wheels fell off. like he got the most out of life. And, you know, I'll be known for smiling big, loving hard, you know, and, you know, what more can you ask for?
You said you don't think you'd be here if it wasn't for Mariah going hard. Do you really believe she saved your life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that's what you do. When you find a helpmate, when you find someone that you're in matrimony with, you know, you go hard for them. I feel like I went hard for her and will still go hard. I lay down my life for her today. You know, it's what you do. It's family.
It wasn't, and I just want to make it clear, it wasn't just that moment where you had to contend with health and mortality. It's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, I was in and out of the hospital. I mean, I was in the hospital this past December. You know, it's not as frequent, you know, but and it's just because I have the right doctors and I'm hopefully doing the right things now that it doesn't find me. But lupus, you have what they call flare-ups, and it happens when certain times of the year, seasons, stress, and some can be worse than others. So early on when I was trying to understand it, between like 2012 and 2016, I was in the hospital like a couple of times a year for stints of like 3 weeks to a month, just trying to figure it out. So and like I said, the flare-ups would cause things from everywhere from like blood clots, pulmonary embolisms, inflammation and not have the ability to walk, to kidney failure, organs not doing what, you know, they're supposed to do. So, you know, I had blood clots in my lungs and my heart, like things that would have normally killed other people. You know, the doctors be like, man, I don't understand how you didn't get affected by that, you know, and having to do, you know, infusions that are, you know, similar to chemotherapy and, you know, my hair falling out, stuff like that. Like, it's been quite the journey, but, you know, you never know how strong you are. Being strong is the only option. You just got to push through.
Crazy how that changes perspective. And as you say all of that, having not been through that myself,
Yeah.
I'm so hungry to understand the perspective that it's given you, because I don't want to have to go through that to get the perspective.
I don't wish it on anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You say that sitting there 30 years old.
Yeah, and this is why it's...
But man, you know what I used to do even before I was diagnosed with lupus? It's funny. And I don't even just put on my heart, but I knew it helped my perspective. Every month, started off every month, then it started to be like once a quarter. But I would go to St. Mary's Children's Hospital and read books, give toys, and really just hang out. And I wouldn't do it for publicity, or it was a reset button for me to put everything in perspective, because you would see these children who were dealing with life-altering, sometimes just chronic and detrimental disease, and they would have these smiles on their faces, man, and they would just be so happy and like hooked up to tubes, and I'm like, man, if they're having a good day, I have no complaints. I'm gonna walk out of here in good health. And I was still on the board of St. Mary's Children's Hospital, and I did a lot of work with like the Children's Miracle Network and stuff. I probably started that in like, I was in my mid-20s. And it just, I almost want to say helped prepare me for the mindset of when I had my own diagnosis. I mean, ultimately ended up losing my own child, you know, even a decade later after that. It was like, you gotta enter these spaces with empathy, with compassion, because then that reminds you that we're all human, and make the most out of this day, because you might not be able to walk tomorrow. You might take a loss of someone that you thought was gonna be there forever, that you thought was gonna outlive you. And
You're talking about Zen.
Yeah. And it's like, and moving so fast, you start to regret, like, man, I didn't do what I should have done in that moment. So it's a constant reminder, you know what I mean? And I think perspective, perception, a lot of those things help us daily.
You dealt with the loss of your son, Zen, at just 5 months old due to brain cancer.
Yeah.
Something that no parent ever conceives as a possibility.
And so it's an awful club to be a member of, but I can understand where it's hard to relate. I've learned a lesson in that, to where when other people are going through stuff, never use the word "I understand," because you don't. You know, it's just, it's so many things that go through your mind of, you know, even in a short period of time of 5 months, the level of pain, the level of guilt, the level, you know, like that one struggles with, because, you know, you think like, oh, well, that child would have got to grow to see 5 years or 25 years, or, you know, you start asking all of these questions that of concepts you struggle to understand. So when you go through it, you kind of have to just create this fog that protects you, but at the end of the time, like, again, you just got to keep pushing through. And then, you know, they do say time heals all wounds. I think, you know, you feel it's just something that you'll never completely heal from, but you live and you learn to operate, and you learn to smile, you learn to be appreciative. If you're a jovial and optimistic person like I am, you know, you push through, but, you know, that pain never leaves you.
Did you have space and time to grieve his loss?
Grieving is forever. It's not a time period. Like, that's what I was talking about. Like, it's not about time. It's like, that's something you're gonna grieve daily.
You can grieve it daily.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we all, and then any loss, you know what I mean? And it's learning how to turn your grief into purpose, learning how to turn your grief into a badge of honor in your character. Because we all experience it. Because sometimes grief can turn into anger and sadness. I don't think that's what it's meant for. I think that may be the innate feeling. But when you can turn, oh man, I lost my grandmother, I lost my mother, so therefore it makes me more compassionate to women. I lost my child, so that makes me appreciate other children. I lost my father, or I never knew my father, so that makes me want to be a greater father. You know, like, when you learn that pain or that grief can actually turn and make you fulfill you in with strength in those spaces that once were empty, I think that then allows you to figure out why we're here in the first place.
If I was a fly on the wall in your household during that period, what would I have seen?
A lot of silence, from me at least. When I'm dealing with stuff, I get real quiet. I don't talk. I keep to myself. Therefore, that makes the whole room uncomfortable because everybody else has to be quiet, especially someone like me who is loud, you know, especially in my own home, when it becomes, it's an eerie silence. So, and, you know, it's internalizing, it's thinking, it's taking the time, it's being appreciative of the time, of the energy. But see a lot of love, a lot of compassion, but a lot of silence.
We have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest, not knowing who they're going to leave the question for. And they write it into the diary. I don't get to read it beforehand. Jack does. He just checks it's not completely crazy. So
okay.
Here we go. Okay, I'm going to have a guess. Okay, so I've got this thing. Then what's the next word? Okay, this thing you're upset about, but you're hanging on to, that you've been ruminating about, resenting, What would happen if you just let it go? If you just never thought about it again and let it go?
Did you interview my therapist last? As much as I may like internalize things and like overanalyze, because I would say I'm a perfectionist on one end, I'm also fly by the seat of my pants, carefree, whatever happens, happens type of person. So in therapy, I have to figure out which box I'm gonna put my issues in. Because there are the ones I overanalyze about, and, you know, those usually have to deal with like my children and, you know, relationships based off of like wanting to be the best me in that space. And then there's the stuff that are like, I can't control that, like whatever, like, and those are the things that keep people up all at night. And you just lost how many millions of dollars? Or like, I don't care. So to answer that very insightful question, nothing would happen. It would be very similar to, and that's what I've learned. Like the things that I overanalyze and stress about, usually the same result happens when I'm carefree and don't really put too much emphasis on the issue.
But is there anything that you could let go of that you think would have a positive impact on your life if you just let it go?
Not really. I mean, because I'm kind of that type of person. Like, I don't let things.
There's not an idea or a resentment or a grudge or a experience.
Maybe before, you know, I think I'm kind of doing the work. So I kind of know that about myself, but I've never been one to take life seriously like that. And it's almost to my detriment, you know, sometimes, or like I need to take something seriously, like my health or, you know, even some certain relationships. But I used to care what people thought about me, you know, because we're in an industry of that. We'd be lying if, like, I still pay attention to what people say about me, but I don't allow it to, you know, make decisions for me. So I don't deal with that anymore. And that's why I said now I'm probably at this space to where even if it's the small things, you know, I kind of know how to compartmentalize even for the moment. Like, all right, I spent enough time on that. You know, we got to move off it. As a father, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to learn so many more lessons with all of my children they're all going to deal with things in a completely different fashion. So hopefully whatever their hangups are don't necessarily become my hangups. Because I know as a parent, we do that. You know, that's the compassion of parenting. You got any kids?
Not yet.
Yeah, that's the thing they don't tell you, that their problems become your problems.
How do you mean?
Whatever they have an issue is now your issue. From the smart, if they got diarrhea, you got diarrhea. like if they're crying, you're crying. If they can't sleep, you can't sleep. And it happens forever. If they have a problem if they're stressing about school, you're stressing about their school.
I'm right there. I'm about to have kids.
Yeah.
I imagine I've got a partner, we're settled down, we've got a place together, we're talking about it. What advice have you got for me?
Do it. Yeah, I mean, but it's because it's what life is all about. Like, it's like, you're going to do it the way you want to do it. Like I said, one of the things and me having so many kids, I'm like, man.
So many, you got
12.
12 kids.
Yeah. So I'm
the oldest is 12, you said earlier.
Yeah, the oldest, 12-year-old twins.
12-year-old twins.
Yeah, and all of their problems, they come to, they're my problem.
That's a lot of problems.
Yeah, like it's not, and they don't care about their siblings' problems. You got to deal with this one right now. Dad, my chameleon has an eye infection. We have to rush to the vet now. Like, what? It's a lizard. All right. It's life or death. The chameleon can't die. Like, or to, you know, Yeah, that one's fun and silly, but you know, taking us back to Zen and what we were talking about. Like those were my issues. Those were my problems. Those brought out things that I never thought I would ever have to deal with. Because as I watch my 5-month-old sit here and deal with life. So it's like their problems become your, and what you think about, for me, and I was thinking about this morning, you're just grateful for when it's like, wow, there's no problems right now. It's quiet, where everybody's good. Let's embrace this moment. And then, you know, when problems or issues, challenges, obstacles arise, we all deal with it as a family. And that, you know, so that's, you appreciate life for, you become a problem solver. You become an individual who every day wakes up and overcomes whatever challenges is in front of them.
Sounds like a lot of, a big weight to carry.
But it's life. It's fun. Have fun with it. Whatever that challenge is, whatever issue that child brings, have fun with it. Find the story in it. Find the lesson. What's the happily ever after to this? Because it's a happily ever after every day. You just gotta focus on it. Don't you know, even the villains have happy ever afters. Like, it's like you just gotta figure out, at the end of the day, how am I gonna say, I learned this, or I got this out of this, even though I went through the fire to get there, I'm still going through it. You gotta find the enjoyment in the journey.
Do you care about legacy?
I thought I did. I had to define what it was. I'm still defining what it is. I realized that my children aren't my legacy. My children are my children. My children aren't necessarily mine, they're their own. I've been given the stewardship and the privilege for a certain amount of time to be able to guide them to the best of my ability for 18 to 25 years, but they're their own people. So I've learned that that's not my legacy. What we can build together as a family can become a legacy.
So what's your legacy?
My compassion, my gratitude, which then probably turns into my humility, which then turns into my humor, which then turns into my comedy, which it turns into my art form. I mean, that's built into the compassion and stuff as well too. So to be able, people say, man, he made the world a better place by making people smile. And if I could do that through my humor, my music, my art, my movies, my finances, I just want to make people smile. So hopefully even when I'm gone, the things that I left behind make people smile.
I certainly believe that's the case. You've made me smile over the years. I started watching Wild 'N Out on MTV and then on YouTube throughout my entire life. I mean, MTV was felt like the only show on in my household growing up in Plymouth, and it was kind of my window into hip hop culture and comedy and all those things. And in every respect of the word, not only have you put countless people on that you'll never get credit for, nor do you really care about the credit clearly, but you've been a pioneer in so many different art forms and created this wonderful platform to put other people on. And that's something that I look at and I really aspire to do with my life as well. Like if I'm able to help people reach their full potential in the way you have for so many people that people have no idea about across comedy and entertainment and music, then I think that's a life worth living and a life worthwhile. It's exactly what you have. So thank you for doing that.
That's another title. Life Worthwhile. Sounds like a book.
Let's get that trademarked. Let's keep that IP. Thank you so much,
man. This
Nick.
has been beautiful. Thank you for the experience.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you, Nick.
Likewise.